I'm here for roll call, and I got to get my kid ready for school, so I'm going to be off camera and off audio.
You just have an early morning, don't you?
Got these children.
Hi, Dan.
Good morning.
Nice to see you on camera.
Wonderful.
Did you just get up?
I have been here since 5:15.
Oh, I beat you. I've been up since 4:30.
I mean, here
Oh,
at,
at your desk?
at my desk in the office.
Ah. I didn't get on till about 5:30, probably.
Well, that was good. I got work done, so what's that?
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning,
Julia.
Julia.
Good morning.
You took your
Hi,
rollers
Julia.
out.
Hi. I am sleepy. I just wake up.
We can kind of
Julia, you
tell.
look very excited.
Yeah. No, I have dizziness last night and I took my medicine and that one is it put me to sleep and knocked me out, and then this morning when I wake up it was like 6:37. I say, oh. So I'm gonna be kind of slow today.
What makes that any different than any other day?
Right?
Oh, here it comes. Here it comes.
Hey, I'm not fair. You guys are being a world of trouble.
So
Boy,
who we're
Mike and
missing?
Joyce, everybody's a little chippy today, aren't they?
I think we're all getting kind of old and disturbed with this COVID crap.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly fatigued.
Cindy, where are you?
I am more than fatigued.
Mhm.
I'm fed up with it.
So everyone is so who we're missing? Andy and
Andy,
Miss
Norma,
saying Norma,
Oh.
Jennifer,
and Jennifer.
Andy.
We got 3 we're missing yet.
Angela's coming in today, isn't she?
Yeah. Yeah, she should be coming in a little later.
so we don't have quorum right now.
Not yet.
Okay. No.
Okay, back
we're
in place.
4. Yeah, we're 4.
Oh, you.
Cindy, where is your face?
Because we got Mark, Joe, Julia, and
I'm
Dan.
having technical difficulties here, so.
I
in
like
Florida.
Cindy's background. I wish.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to look at the beach and I guess, I don't know. Not sure where my,
Cindy, you playing pickleball today?
no, I'm volunteering at the Badger Prairie Needs Network,
Good.
doing
Okay.
curbside pickup.
Yeah, I hear the governor's
I'll be
gonna.
outside a little bit.
I hear the governor's gonna be there today.
He is?
That's what Andy Potts texted me last night. He wasn't sure what time, but supposedly he's gonna be there at some point today. Maybe.
Yeah, because there is like when you tell me.
Your meeting, Madam Chairman.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Good morning, everyone, to the Economic and Development Authority December 10th meeting. The first order in our agenda is to call for, to determine if we have quorum
Roll call, Arada Frada,
here.
Clary, Gaius Veos, Hamilton,
Here.
Hardy,
Here.
Maldonado, Potts.
Here. Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next in our agenda is the approval of the meeting for the September 24 meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make a
So
motion to
moved.
approve. Second.
Okay.
Second.
Any question, discussion?
Andy and Mark?
Yes.
Okay.
Any question, discussion about the minute? Okay, all those in favor of approval, the September 24 meeting, say aye.
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 Aye. Nays, the motion carries. Next is the public appearances for non-agenda items. Do we have anyone, Scott, in the chamber or online?
No one in the chamber, no one online, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Next, we move to resolution ordinances. We don't have anyone this time. Next, we move to the Forward Fitchburg Business Boost Law Program. So, Mr. Dan Hardy, can you give us an update?
We have met, I think, 3 times. We've received 11 applications. 5 loans were approved. We've distributed $47,500, 4 10s and 1 7,500. We've rejected 6 applications because they did not comply with the standards established by the council. We started out with a $1 million revenue threshold, and nobody seemed to be able to meet that, so we went back to the council and they bumped that up to 2.5. The denials came as a result of even exceeding the 2.5, exceeding the employment levels. We have 25 equivalent full-time. We prefer 50. We would prefer applicants with a 15. So a few got lost on the employment level. And the biggest deficiency we found was there's a requirement that the business be profitable in 2019. And we've defined profitability as cash revenues excluding owner contributions and loans, exceeding cash expenses. So we took out non-cash expenses like depreciation, amortization. And many of these businesses did not meet that threshold of profitability as we defined it, and so they were denied as well. Joyce has communicated with the businesses. Mike and Joyce and the chamber did a great job publicizing the program. There have been a couple photos in the Fitchburg Star, and I think there was one in the Fitchburg Chamber document as well. So we've kind of beat the bushes to get the people out, but there has not been a real great response. One thing we did note in looking at the applications, though, was that many of these companies have received PPP loans and other government advances totaling several hundreds of thousands of dollars, $750,000. So our $10,000 to some potential borrowers is just a drop in the bucket, and they'd rather get a grant than they have a loan, so. But that's the report.
Question,
Who has a question? Joe?
Joe.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Have any denied applicants asked about appealing?
Not to my knowledge, Joyce, have you heard anybody wanting to appeal?
No, we have had a couple that, had incomplete applications and we reached out to them. And, the applications were fixed and they did reapply. We do have one that has an outstanding issue that we've asked to have corrected. They switched their accountant, and so they're working on to address the issue that we had. So hopefully, they'll be able to get it addressed for our next application period on the 15th.
It's not an appeal per se. They clearly did not meet the council imposed standards, but that may very well be because the accounting for prepaid services was not kept very well. Certainly not consistent with accepted accounting principles. So we sent it back, and we've done that on several occasions. If people do not initially meet the criteria, we point that out and send it back and see if they can fix their application. And one in particular had an incomplete application. We told him that we sent it back, and he came back and we approved that loan. So.
I have a question. So how much money left is in the pocket, in the fund now?
Over $100,000.
Okay, over 100. So my question to you, have you discussed to continue this project in 2021?
We're gonna wait and see what happens by December 15, and then we'll make a decision on that, Julia.
Okay. Have you decided to lower the requirement?
We haven't discussed that yet.
Okay.
We'll see what we have. The idea was that we wanted to address small businesses.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And so we've got requirements that were established for small businesses. Like I said, some of the businesses have not been so small, and they've come in with millions of dollars of revenue. And with, I think, $750,000 of PPP and other government advances. So,
Yeah, I understand what you say, because I can see my clients and in my work that, you know, the amount of money that some business collected from the two programs, you know, and you know, and it's kind of like free money, well, but compared to the 10,000, you know, people are gonna say it's worth it to do all this application and submit all this time, you know, for $10,000. I get that. I know that we discussed this in the past, but maybe you guys should consider and talk as a group to determine, can we provide this as a grant, not as a loan, like a $5,000 grant, you know what I mean? Can we do that? You know, I don't know if we can do that because it's taxpayer money, and you know what I mean, but can we do that, reduce from $10,000 to $5,000 and only to target very, very small, you know, businesses that they didn't have any assistance or minimum assistance? I don't know.
we will talk about that.
Okay.
I just want to point out that, this was a council action.
Mm-hmm.
So if we, once we talk about this amongst the loan review committee, we would have to go back through the whole process because the program ends in December. So that would be a consideration. So it's not going to be up and running right away in January. Just keep that in mind. And I guess, Julie, I'm just going to comment on your grant proposal. I think we should have done that at the beginning.
Yeah.
If that was what we were looking to do, because it's really not fair to the people who took out loans, and now we're gonna change the whole thing up and say we're gonna do a grant program. And just keep in mind that these funds came from our revolving loan fund,
Yeah.
and that's for we want to make sure that we have some healthy dollars in there, because we have other people have reached out since we did the transfer about utilizing that fund. So just my 2 cents for what it's worth.
No, I understand, and I think it would be nice if you guys, when you finalize this program on December 15, you come with list of the thing that the thing that if we in the future we're planning to do this again, maybe, 3, 4, 5 years, something we need to do this program again. What are the things that works? What are the things didn't work? You know what I mean? And so to have that, to determine, what are the things that we need to improve in the future if we want to do it again, and so that one will be a great, recommendation from you guys.
I could put together a memo from the committee once we meet.
Okay.
Just with what their thoughts are.
Okay. Any other question for Dan? No? Okay. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for to all the team that were involved with this business loan application process. So thank you. So the other thing that we have at the agenda in item 7 is the Fitchburg business license. And this one is a discussion, okay? So this is a brainstorm session that we want to have your idea. What do you think about? And this is what Amy Mercer is here to us. So she's gonna provide some hints. The idea is here is that most of a small municipality, when you come to a city to do business, they have what they call a nominal fee called a business license. Sometimes it's $10, $15, $25, $30. Oh, Angela, you're gonna talk about this too? Okay. Okay. Well, you can give your perspective as a Fitchburg Chamber. And what we notice is it's a way that this company are registered with the city. Why? Because for several reasons. One, we know where they are located. If they are a small businesses that are coming and they don't need any contact with the city, they are moving to an office space. We don't even know that they are in Fitchburg, So we know the one that they need to do some work and they come to the city for permits or from, and from other sort of, authorization for the city. But otherwise, or they need a liquor license and all of that. Otherwise, we don't know the other one. So, and that one could affect our, the collection of personal property tax. One of the things that Amy found out when she was doing all this, you want to explain, Amy, when you did all the change on the, the update, we found out that there were a lot of, companies in Fitchburg that they are not paying the personal property tax because the majority is because we don't even know they are in Fitchburg. So the idea was how we can know which company are here, and also in case that there is a robbery or there is something happening in the business, the police and the fire department of the city, they know where they are located, who are the owners, who to contact. And the idea was why we don't have a business. I thought that we have a business license, and we don't. And so this is having this discussion with Amy and with Mike about what we can do, and the same way we can have a business license and charge like something nominal, like $10, one-time fee, but at least we have a register of all these companies that come into Fitchburg. So it's a discussion. We want to know your feedback. We are not gonna decide anything today. Is to start having the discussion, okay? So I know that some people are gonna say, oh, this is another fee, another tax, and because it could be one. But also we need to think, if we are not gonna do this route, how do we know which are those businesses that are in Fitchburg that they don't even go to City Hall for anything? Okay, Amy, I don't know, you want to, or Mike, I don't know, you want to say something before Mike? Amy?
No, I think it was, this was for discussion purposes only today, and Amy's got some experience from another community where she has worked in. If CETA would be inclined to want to look at something like this, it would need to be part of our 2022 budget schedule because it would be included in our fee schedule. But with that, I'll turn it over to Amy, and I think she's got some good information to share based on her experience.
Hi, everyone. I worked in Janesville previously, and in there, when I worked in the assessor's office, our building inspection had a process like this. So Janesville has a process like this, and many communities do. Even Perry, our commercial appraiser, he was surprised when he just came that we didn't have this in place here because of all the other communities that he worked in. One thing from the assessor's viewpoint, it was a way that we knew when all the businesses came and left the city. It also gives you all of the contact information. I spoke with Gail Price. He's the economic developer for Janesville. I talked to him 2 days ago just to kind of refresh my mind. Can I share my screen? Because I wrote up some notes. And so if you'd like these notes, I can forward them on to the appropriate people. Am I able to share my screen here?
Yes, Amy, you are.
Okay. So. Figure out if I have to move this over. Okay, can you see that now?
Yes,
Nope.
ma'am.
No.
You had it before you flipped it.
Okay,
There you go.
Yeah.
I can
right.
see it now.
all right, I'm working with 3 screens here, so I'm not sure if I have to move it to my laptop, which I'm talking to. So, so these are just my notes. So they're they call it an occupancy permit. They're required for any change of occupancy or ownership. The permits are reviewed by the building division, and then copies of the building permits are distributed to various departments throughout the city. The assessing, the fire, the police, those are the primary ones that utilize it. They also review to ensure the permitted use, to make sure that that use is allowed when they have a new tenant. They charge a one-time fee, I believe, of $75. The City of Janesville's existing policy does not require the tenants to notify them when they leave or lease up, but they think that's something they should alter their information to include. The fire inspector and building inspector both review the property prior to the tenant occupying it. The building division, they're the ones that receive, so that would be the department that would handle this under their workload. The occupancy fees are allocated to the general fund, and then they prefer the new tenants actually apply prior to signing a lease, and that helps them ensure that the lease is for a permitted use and the tenant isn't not able to use that space if it's not. As far as the assessing, the form actually includes various items, and I can show you that in a minute. But I also included some of the things that it helps the assessing department with. It's with the personal property accounts to ensure that we have all of them, and also that we know when spaces are empty, that they've left. It ensures that we have the proper legal name, the legal entity, the business name, the type of business, their fee number. That's important for if there's delinquent taxes if they move out. So that helps then with the finance department when they're trying to collect taxes. And there tends to be a lot of delinquent personal property accounts. And then, so that helps kind of with finance. It also would help finance with their utility billing, knowing when people are coming and going and closing and opening accounts. And then Joe, our chief fire, I talked to him quick yesterday, and he talked about, you know, it helps the fire and police when there's a fire, knowing who to, not just who owns the real estate, but which tenants are occupying that space, to notify them if something occurs. They had a fire this year that someone was actually living in the space, a commercial space, and they didn't know that, and that would change how they would approach that if they knew that that space had the ability to also be lived in. Then this is Janesville's occupancy permit. Let me see. If I do. Can you see this? Did I do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is their permit. So I mean, this is just their, and so it includes, you know, their business name, a previous business name, you know, all of the information that like we need for assessing to do our job, the location. Actually, their fee is $72 according to this permit. And then it just goes and explains the process. They also have a permit, a home occupation permit, because we do have some personal property accounts. I have to switch this. Are you able to see the home occupation, or do I need to switch this again?
We can see it, Amy.
Okay. So they also have the home occupation permit. This one I'm not as worried about. We don't have that many businesses, but it's just something else to think about. So, and like I said, the majority of communities that I know use a process like that. Some call it an occupancy permit. Some I think call it a business license. So that's kind of it.
Can I unmute myself? So, Angela, do you want to make any comment?
I can certainly see the value. I'd be curious, Amy, do any other Dane County communities have a similar process? I hesitate, especially now, to add something that even has the appearance of an additional fee for businesses. That would be my first reaction. I really do see the value. I also wonder what the enforcement, like, how do you enforce that? And, how do you, to me, and again, just anecdotally, I think that when people fall off our radar is when there's kind of a change of occupancy. And are the building inspectors, aren't they only in the building maybe once every year, right? So I'm curious how we do that, but I see the value. I just would hesitate right now to start talking about additional fees for businesses. That's just my gut reaction. Frankly, there's value to the chamber for that too. we have trouble finding people and, you know, integrating them into the community, which leads, which helps their success. So, you know.
Yeah, I did some searching on it. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on it because I wasn't sure who was doing that. And like I said, it seems to come under different titles. And I thought the city of Madison actually has something similar.
Yeah, they
to that.
have one. And Monona has one too.
And that, and I know, and we could do it in a different variety of approaches, you know, depending on what you do. I know Gail said that you're required to charge the fee up to, I believe it's the cost for the actual cost of the program. So, you know, if it's the cost of 2 employees going out, because you would have both fire and the building inspector going out to the properties. You know, and you could approach it in a variety of ways. If you wanted to do this at this time frame and implement it, you could create a resolution that, because this is a new program you're starting, that you didn't, it's a one-time fee. If you apply for this in the next 3 months, there is no fee. And then after that, you're required to have the fee. You know, that would be all totally up to how you would like to do that if you chose to do this. But I know it would definitely, we're looking for some type of database, like both Joe and I, we were talking about it. It would really help both of our departments if we had some form of this going into effect.
This is Mark here. I'm seeing this as a database as well, and I agree that with Angela, not asking for money from our businesses now is not the smart thing. One way to think about this is grandfather. Everybody that's already in business in town, you go get the information. Anybody who's setting up a new business has to go through and pay. But I will tell you, Joe's staff, I mean, our dialysis unit up there on Fish Hatch, Joe's fire staff came through there once a year. And they asked us every question that was on that list that you showed. So this is getting done to some extent. Whether it's getting everything that's needed may not be there, but I think it's important we have an accurate database in this city to know who's where and who's living in what. I mean, that's a key thing. But I thought that they were doing some of that. And as far as the building inspector, they're coming through these businesses too, to some extent. So I think we got to find a way to do this to make sure our database is accurate and full and complete. And then second of all, I would not, as Julia said, and Angela, I would not ask the current businesses for money to apply at this time. My 2 cents.
So this is a dumb question, it's Joe. So there is no mechanisms whatsoever to determine what businesses are in our city at this point. I always just assumed there was something, but that's what I'm hearing.
I think there's a variety, but you have so many different departments that are not connecting. You know, like you said, you have fire inspection going out to these businesses, but they only visit them once a year. Assessing, we visit them once a year. And there's been no standard database for all of us to look at and know of these changes. You know, I'll go to Joyce and ask her questions at times, and she'll have someone different down as a point of contact. You know, the assessing department we use, when we find new businesses, we just have a name on the business. So when we open that account with that personal property account up, we'll send it to the name of the business and the business location. But we don't actually know who owns that or who is leasing that information because we're not privy to that at that point in time. So that's what we'd kind of like to do. Joe and I, we've talked about that, is trying to find some standard database of sharing that with our CAMA system. We can have the personal property accounts there, and we can show them the real estate, but personal property is confidential. So I can't technically share a lot of that information. if this form is there, then this is standard information that all of us could share. And I could share that information with the other departments then too.
And if I'm hearing you correctly and just thinking through kind of what I know about keeping data in large organizations, there's either so confidentiality is one thing, like some departments can't know what other departments are collecting, and different departments are using different systems that sort of best suit them, because, you know, maybe something else, like what, I'm just using two examples, like parks and the police, you know, they're the systems that each one of them use wouldn't be useful for one another's functions. Is that kind of what I'm hearing as well?
Yes, there is, and I'd have to look more into it. The building inspection who handles this process for other cities, we actually they went to iWorks, I think it's 2 years ago. And that's a pretty powerful system also. So like our department, we have access to the iWorks system, and we're now extracting that data directly out and inputting the building permits directly into our workload each month. And so I'd have to look more into it or talk to building inspection more if that program had a way that we could all share it. Because I think that program, the various departments, if it was put into that program, like an actual permit, we could all view that. You know, we just get access to view their information then. And I thought that program also had a way that you could create up a workflow, which they're not currently using, but it would have a way to, I believe, send that through an email out of that system into that. And so that would be something we'd have to look into and see how we would work through this process also.
I have a question. If I'm a landlord and I have a duplex and I rent it out regularly, is that a business?
Not in this sense. This is more for, you know, I don't think so. You know, now I think about it more. You know, on my end, it's not.
Let's go from a duplex to a 64-unit building.
The owner of the real estate typically would have one personal property account for that, and then for our end.
But each tenant is every time a tenant changes, we should have a new registration and advice to this registration system?
No, I don't believe that would be the case in this aspect.
Well, then,
this is more for like leased retail spaces.
have you checked with the state of Wisconsin Department of Revenue, who maintains a business registration list for all businesses in Wisconsin?
Have I checked with them?
Yeah, can we get access to that as a city?
I've never asked them that. I could check with revenue on that.
But my issue is, you know, the government's got their fingers in everything. And my wife has got an interior design, quote, business. And the revenues don't amount to a hill of beans. Now, she would be a business required to register. She's got a computer. She might have some tiles or draperies or fabrics at home. So I'm going to have a building inspector and a fire inspector walk through my house because she maintains her office out of my house. For me, I worked from home March, April, and May. And so I conducted my legal business from my home. So now you want the fire and me to register, pay this fee, and have the fire and building inspector walk through my home? I think this is ridiculous.
Dan,
If the building and fire inspectors are already walking through as Mark suggested, why can't they collect that information when they go through, bring it back and put it into a common database? You also have the Chamber of Commerce that has a list of businesses.
yeah, but
Cross-reference with that.
Would it be okay if I just interjected for a minute? Because maybe I should share what we're doing. Mike and I keep a pretty robust list of businesses. And I actually do a walkthrough at least once a year of every office building, every commercial. We hand out our business cards when we go. We get a business card of the person who our contact should be. And we do a pretty good job of maintaining this. So we have a lot of the information. I think we have about 750 businesses in our database. The technique that Amy's talking about, I see a few problems in it because the building inspection department doesn't determine zoning. The zoning department does that. So there's another department that needs to be involved. We don't have in our ordinance, we don't have a requirement for a home business to have any special kind of conditional use or anything like that. It's just based upon traffic. It's a kind of a complaint basis. So if a business is generating too much traffic in a residential area, then there would be a reaction to that. So I guess I personally have some concerns with doing this, since I feel like Amy said, we're all kind of doing data collection, and we share our information with the chamber, and the chamber shares their information with us. So I guess, I don't know, I'm kind of 50-50 on the whole idea. I personally don't think building inspection is the right department to administer a license per se. The occupancy permit is a little bit different than a business license. Occupancy is usually for like a project that has been completed and signed off by building inspection. So those are just my thoughts.
Amy,
Can I add two? Go ahead, Angela.
Oh, you mentioned the personal property records obviously are confidential, but are the, is there a way to export just the names of the businesses? And, you know, is there a chance that maybe we do a merging of our various databases to see what kind of difference there might be if there is really a bigger, you know, how big the problem is? I mean, between Joyce and myself and your records, it would be interesting to see how, you know, how many you don't have and vice versa. Is that something we can do?
We can. I mean, we did a lot of that this last year, and I think we found like I think I had like almost 190 new accounts, and then other accounts that have closed. So when we send out a personal property form each year, we get that information back, but that's only if they decide to send back the information. And then we have businesses that close. So like we do a lot of, you know, we'll Google, is this business still here? We'll go out to the business, and especially now with COVID, a lot of businesses, they're closed, or it's a locked building. And so they'll have signs out with the businesses, and so we'll open up the accounts, and then we end up having to close the accounts, and, you know, so it gets complicated on our end. And a lot of the names like that Joyce and Mike use, it's the actual, it might be a manager's name that they're using, but not the actual business entity who is required to own that business. So then there's those other legal aspects of who legally owns this property or this lease building. And Dan, as far as the home business, they have, like I said, they have two different forms, and the home occupation permit, when I'm looking at it again, it doesn't look like anyone comes out to the home occupation businesses, and I don't believe they pay a fee for the home occupation. There's nothing on there that says that. It's just a form that they fill out saying that it's there.
But it is whatever the Common Council establishes in Fitchburg.
Correct, correct. And this is just, I'm throwing out different ideas to you to try and find a way that we can create some type of standard database, I guess, is what we're looking at. And
or maybe if you see that there is, so this is a good conversation because I thought that the city has a robust platform where the department talk to each other, or they have information in one platform so you can extract information, but it seems like everyone is working in silos, you know? Information is gathered in a storage in silos instead of in a platform where, you know, they share information. So that one, it should be something about, you know, something that in the city eventually will need to, if the city still continue to grow, you know, because we can manage it with 10,000, you know, a 10,000 population and a couple of hundred of business, but the city is growing, we are 30,000 and we are growing in number of business, then we need to have a better robust system to manage this. And maybe something that the city eventually will need to look at the internal process and procedure and determine, okay, what is department, they don't talk to each other, or they gather, you know, they have all the information in silos, and, you know, so, you know, that one could be another way that is, you know, that to have this conversation, to open that discussion internally too, for you guys as a head of department, you know, how do we need to manage our information better, you know, and share in a consistent way, you know, but,
Julia,
yeah.
why don't we do this? Let us convene a staff team here with assessing, building inspection, fire, and zoning, and just compare notes across departments about who's gathering what and what information do they have on businesses. And then the second thing, let Joyce and I check with some of our peer communities here in Dane County, Middleton, some Prairie. I think Monona already has a license, so we'll try and get some information from them on what they do and how they do it. And then we'll report back at a future CETA meeting.
Yeah,
on
that
those
one is a
conversations.
good idea, yeah.
Mike, can I add one more to that? I think that you also got to look and come to some conclusion on, you know, I'm sitting here looking at Julia. If she was going to open a CPA business in her basement there, Dan gave the same example about his wife. How is the city going to deal with that? I mean, we got to, because there's going to be more and more of this in the future. And I think the retail space, some of that commercial real estate is going to be, when the doors and signs are on there, Amy, like you said, they may not be opening because they're all working from home. And I think we need to assess that as we move forward, knowing who's working out of the home, if it's a full business versus somebody that's working at home. There's two different things there. And this day and age, as you talk to your communities, Mike, Joyce, you might want to raise that too.
And I'm gonna give you an example. I have a client that she ran an online shopping business that is growing like millions and millions from her home in Madison. You know what I mean? So she have all the distribution center and everything in other state and all of that, and you don't even know where it is. You know? So, and even office, you know, like you have building here in Fitchburg, like, you know, you have a Maquis and Seminole, all these small business, you can rent an office there. You don't know how many businesses are there. Because they don't need to go to the city and register with you guys. You know what I mean? So this is the thing that we, you know what I mean? The thinking forward is how we determine how many businesses we have here, you know, and that's it.
But Mike, when you do your study, it would also be helpful from a perspective of how do they enforce it? what are the penalties for not abiding by the rules? I know in the liquor and restaurant business, if you're not registered with the state of Wisconsin as a business, then the Department of Revenue can cause your license to be withheld. But what enforcement mechanisms are available to our peer cities that have this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I know.
what is the cost of doing that enforcement?
I know Janesville, I believe it said it's $100 fine if the business is there and they haven't registered. And I think like if Joe is going out each month, I would assume that's when we would find that a new business is there and then he'd have to like tell building inspection would be a thought process I would have in that aspect. But there's a lot that we would have to work through and decide what to do if we were to go down this path.
And is that a friendly invitation for businesses to locate in Fitchburg, Wisconsin? When we're prosecuting 100 people every year for failing to register?
Yeah, nope, and that's why I said, these are all questions we need to talk about and decide. I did ask Gail Price if they have any negative aspect back, and he says very little, because the occupants actually see it as a plus because they do have it looked at in advance, many of them, of moving in. So then they're not signing a lease and saying, oh, no, you can't be in this business later on because it's not a permitted.
I represent a lot of tenants and landlords, and I never have allowed any tenant or real estate purchaser, for that matter, to purchase or enter into a lease unless they know what the zoning is and that their business is going to be acceptable within that zoning permit. I mean, that should be on the person renting the property. I mean, I don't know how much government interference and oversight has to be expended for that.
I think that's a difference, Dan, between you being an attorney and someone dealing with a real estate person, because sometimes, I mean, a lot of times the real estate people just think anybody can go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do a lot of outreach sometimes to us as far as checking. We have a lot of good ones, but we have some that just kind of say, okay, you can go there.
Well,
and
then
they
you
don't
ought to
really
then you ought to get their license and revoke it.
And I guess I'll just comment on one thing from my past experience when I've gone out to do our audit, and I usually do this once a year because the business lunch, we want to make sure that we include all the businesses. I get a really warm reception from people saying, wow, thanks. Thanks for actually welcoming us to the community and giving us a resource. We've had a lot of positive feedback, and a lot of times they'll come back from a business that probably has questions for a different department. So there is definitely benefit into going out.
Okay, so we reached at 7:53, so I think it was a good discussion. I think the head of the department, some of you have homework to do, and we can continue the discussion. We don't need to decide anything today, but it's the first. I think it's the first brainstorming about this, and it's good that we have this discussion to improve process and procedures. So, okay. Next in our discussion is number 8 is the road construction update. So we have here with us Ms. Cindy Jaggi. She's the project manager. So Cindy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm still having technical difficulties, so pretend I'm coming to you from the Caribbean on a beach. But anyway, Scott, if we can put up the first slide.
Stand by, please.
Thank you.
You're up.
Okay. Not that one, the one that says the other BRBC one, or Road Road.
Stand by, please.
The one at the bottom, I think. Nope, the next one. There. Thank you. Okay, I wanted to put this up because it's just a nice look back at all of the accomplishments that have, that we've experienced over the last 6 years with the Verona Road project. And this is a slide that WISDOT put together. And just to review, with the Verona Road project, there were over 410 square yards of concrete that were used, 780,000 tons of aggregate for the base course. They reconstructed 12 bridges. The road there supports 120,000 vehicles per day on the Madison Beltline and 70,000 vehicles per day on Verona Road. There were 3,400 construction workers that worked on Verona Road, and they reconstructed 51 lane miles when you included the Madison Beltline, Verona Road, and the other local roadways. And they implemented 5 noise barriers as well. The road itself has received numerous awards for outstanding highway construction project throughout 2015 and 2018. And then in 2017, it won the 2017 Top Road Project in North America from Roads and Bridges magazine. And in 2018, it won the Best of State Award. So the only reason I'm putting this up here is because there was a lot accomplished over the last 6.5 years with Verona Road as far as the reconstruction. And if anybody's, all of us have driven over the new Verona Road project now, and it's such a beautiful road now and so efficient and truly the main artery from the state line through Dane County to the northern part of the state. So that gives us a baseline of what we did and what we accomplished over, from a road construction standpoint. But let's talk about the VRBC and what we accomplished during this period of time. So Scott, I'm going to ask, yep, thank you. First of all, we want to thank the city of Fitchburg for our funding for the last 6.5 years for VRBC, the staff time that was devoted to the project, and all of your support over the past 6.5 years. We certainly could not have accomplished any of this without your support. So we just appreciate that immensely. Let's talk about what we accomplished though in the 6.5 years here. The VRBC worked extensively with about 140 businesses that were affected by the road construction. And we worked with them from, business access issues to their branding, to their signage, to helping them with marketing. Basically, whatever they needed, we helped with during that period of time. We worked very closely with the Fitchburg and Verona chambers also, and we never tried to duplicate anything that they were already doing. The VRBC, the businesses and volunteers contributed $147,000 of in-kind products and services and time over the 7 years, and we raised over $150,000 in matching cash. Because remember, every year we had to come up with a match to the CIP city funding that we received. Each year we held about 6 marketing and educational events based on what the businesses needed. And we had about 5,500 businesses, that participated over the 7 years. We worked very hard to keep everybody updated and informed on alternate routes, on detours, on business access issues. Communication was a major mission of ours over the last, like I said, over the course of the project. One of the things I can't say enough about were our volunteers. We had about 40 plus volunteers, and many of you, even on this committee, also volunteered for us. And we logged, those 40 volunteers would log about 600 volunteer hours a year for us, or about 4,200 hours in total over the course of the project. And about, I would say probably 75% of our volunteers stayed with us for the course of the 6.5 years. So very loyal volunteers, very hardworking, dedicated, and fun all the way around. The VRBC launched a lot of events as well over the 6.5 years, and thankfully we had our Open Roads Ahead ribbon cutting and block party with Governor Evers last year, because certainly we wouldn't be able to have it this year. And that was a nice event. Many of you attended that. We got great press for that, you know, talking about how the Broner Road would be opening soon. We implemented an event to bring all the businesses together and encourage local holiday shopping with the Jingle and Mingle event. It was held every year, and I even had businesses reaching out to me this year and asking if we were going to have that event again because they wanted to participate. We held Oktoberfest every year. It was a major fundraiser for the VRBC, and also brought the businesses together and their employees as a thank you or appreciation for putting up with the road construction and enduring it. And then we were also part of the Fitrona Art Crawl and other fundraising events. So, and then there was a time where our Broner Road project was looking like it was going to be delayed, and the state funding was going to also be in jeopardy. So we took our businesses and we advocated at the state capitol with our lawmakers, with the governor, to keep that project on time and in the budget. So that's a brief overview. We also had a volunteer appreciation on October 13th for our volunteers. And there was a city proclamation that day as well, proclaiming October 13th as VRBC Volunteer Appreciation Day as well. And all in all, the VRBC now is being held up as the gold standard in the state for dealing with road construction and collaborating and communicating with businesses that are being affected by road construction projects. So we have, the Wisconsin DOT has reached out to us, the TDA has reached out to us to help with other road construction projects as well. And over the years, we've been very fortunate to have gotten a lot of media and press for our various events. And most recently, we were a part of TDA's annual meeting. It was done virtually, but our project was one of the case studies that they actually featured. So very, very grateful to have gotten all that support over the years. So. Current situation is the VRBC is currently being sunsetted or dissolved. So at the end of December, we will be officially dissolved. And our budget has been exhausted to zero. We've worked very closely with our budget, you know, every month to make sure there were no outstanding expenses and that we spent it down to a zero balance. But we were pinching our pennies, you know, the entire time and really maximizing all the dollars that we received. So again, for VRBC, can't thank you enough for the city's support over all these years and putting us into the budget each year. We maximized, like I said, every dollar you gave us, and we matched it with cash and in kind. But again, we could not have done it without the city's support, the staff's support, and then all of our 40+ volunteers over the years. So want to thank you so much for all that you've done for the VRBC. And then just switching gears, I'm going to go to Fish Hatchery Road. So Scott, we'll go to the next one. Okay. Oops, let me get to mine here. And because you asked for, I'm also working with the Fish Hatchery Road project. So here's our overview for what we accomplished in 2020 with that project. So the 2020 segment that was constructed on Fish Hatchery Road included 3,900 linear feet of road construction, and it's now been expanded to 6 lanes wide. 2 new roads were reconstructed, Ochala Drive and Bowman Drive, both located within the Fitchburg's TID district. We reconstructed Bryant Street from a T intersection to a mini roundabout, And if you've been in that area, it's really helping with the traffic flow in there. That was always kind of a congested area, and people were doing U-turns and all of that in that area, and that really has helped with the traffic flow in that area. Since the reconstruction started, the juice plants, the UW Credit Union, and Park Bank have already started their redevelopment, and a person who hadn't been on Fish Hatchery Road for all these months recently commented that when she went down that road, she was like so impressed with all the redevelopment that's been, implemented there and how great it's looking already. So I think that, those of us that are in that area regularly, you may not see all the progress, but if you haven't been in there for even a couple of months, it's remarkable all that's been done in this short period of time. City on a Hill, we worked with them very, very closely. They've invested quite a bit of money into making their property more desirable. They remodeled portions of their exterior. They painted the building. They expanded their parking lot. They created a second access. We worked with both pastors very, very closely on access issues so that it really looks great. Avalon Assisted Living has new ownership and they're working through redevelopment plans. The Bowman lot between Ocala and Index Road has been graded and is being primed for development. There's been, during construction, we discussed with some of the residential properties south of Post Road being redeveloped as well. Stop and Go plans to clear up their gas tanks and prepare that site for redevelopment. And the Wisconsin Restaurant Association may be looking at redevelopment. It's kind of a rumor, but they, when we did some of the things in that corridor, it was as if they were preparing for redevelopment. I worked with communicating with all the businesses that were being affected directly in that area. So communications and updates went out regularly every week, letting them know what was being worked on, what access issues they would, have to be prepared for. And then we had on-site visits and worked with over 30 businesses that had access issues. They had property, issues with signage, with branding, with different things. And then we also worked with them on traffic alternate routes as well. So it was a very busy year with Fish Hatchery Road as well. And all in all, hopefully you can see that the city's investment is already seeing dividends. And as you know by now, we've got one more year left with the Fish Hatchery Road project. Will be completed in 2021. And so we will continue to keep giving you these updates. So any questions for me?
Cindy, this is Mark. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Mark. Cindy, on the Verona Road 6-year project, did you keep any statistics on businesses that left during that period of time?
Yes, I did actually. I kept statistics on businesses that left the area and also that closed as well. And then I kept statistics on new businesses that came into the area as well.
Can you share those with us?
I can, I'd have to, dig those up, and can I provide them to Joyce?
Would you please?
You bet, absolutely.
Overall, what is your impression? Was it a net zero or just about a zero or a positive?
It was, for a long time, we were at about a net zero, and then recently there were a few more businesses that came in. So it's a net positive, but not by very many, by maybe 2, I think.
Well, it's only been open for a few months.
Right. This was over the course of the 6.5 years that I kept track of it.
So in the in this netting, do you attribute the success of not having a decrease attributable to the efforts of the Verona Road efforts that you and your organization undertook?
Well, gosh, I'm not, I'm not going to say that it was all because of the VRBC, but certainly we were one part of the equation. Obviously, the city of Fitchburg plays the main role here, and with, reaching out to the businesses and doing everything that they can to, attract them and retain them. I looked at us as being kind of an adjunct, to the city of Fitchburg. And Joyce and Mike were always fabulous about saying, okay, this business is struggling, reach out to them, see what you can do. And I would always do that. And then many times we'd have meetings together with the city to sit down with a business to say, okay, what is it that you need at this period of time? What can we do to, save your business in the area? So I think I would say that we were the adjunct, organization that worked very directly with the city. So I'd say the city had the primary impact there.
But I mean, it was the collaborative efforts between the city and your organization that kind of held that business group together out there. I'm asking these questions because I'd like to make a determination or assessment as to if this is the footprint for how all these road projects should be dealt with on a going forward basis, because we hear so much from businesses that are adversely affected by the road construction. And I don't recall hearing a lot of that noise on Verona Road. And I think it's because of what the city and your organization did, your group. And I was just trying to get an affirmation from your point of view that that's what happened.
I'll put a plug in for, to reaffirm what Dan's saying, to be able to have an organization where that specific focus is road construction is really valuable to the businesses, because Cindy's response time to businesses when they reached out to her, kind of her direct contacts in the transportation world, just having that advocacy specifically centered around transportation and road construction was really of value to, it really helps the businesses feel supported, and they can get their questions answered quickly. So, certainly they appreciated it and felt like it helped through that period. In addition, I think she undersells the advocacy part at the state, and, had that not happened, their advocacy, we would still be under construction right now or halted. It's my understanding. So that's a big deal. And you never know when funding might be an issue. And so having that advocacy is important for a project, certainly of something like this. So thanks, Cindy.
Oh, thank you, Angela. That's so sweet.
Dan, I think I'm gonna just affirm what she's kind of not giving herself enough credit. I would say that her work was invaluable, and I believe that the council affirmed that when they kept her on as the liaison for the Fish Hatchery Road project. I think they saw the benefit in the work she did, and that was even Public Works who, was the one who said, hey, can we keep her on? So that's just my 2 cents. And I'm going to give Cindy a big round of applause myself here, because the work she did was second to none. So thank you, Cindy.
Oh, thank you, Joyce. That's so sweet.
So I want to mention, coming back to the Fish Hatchery Road, because that one is one of the concern. I live like 2 blocks away from the Fish Hatchery, close to the construction that is gonna come next year. And I drive that road every day to go to work. But yes, I think we didn't when I was going to work. But then I think that COVID was a relief, because a lot of those, people, most of the people had to go back to work from home, so there wasn't too much. I'm not gonna say disruption in the commute for people to go to work last year when we started fish hatchery construction, and also affecting the business like the Verona Road reconstruction. I think COVID was kind of mitigate those things. I was very concerned when we started with the fish hatch reconstruction last year, because I said how they're going to affect all of these businesses in the corridor. I don't know. I will say that one could be. I am not going to say it was a positive C, because COVID is not positive, but you know what I mean. That it alleviates the problems in that corridor. So my question, Cindy, is I know that now the fish hatchery road is going to move next year. It's going to move to the part where we have most of the businesses. We had the segment that we are going to reconstruct next year is going to affect more businesses than this year. So what is your plan for start that outreach to businesses? And do you know how many businesses are in the second phase of the road reconstruction that they are going to be affected?
Okay, let me try to address your question, Julia. First of all, I think we have a template that we know that works from Verona Road and with the first half of Fish Hatchery Road. So I think we're going to keep on working our plan, because our plan we believe works, and it, like I said, it has been held up as a gold standard. And that plan really is as we work each section, between the project manager and myself, we identify those businesses that are going to be directly impacted in the upcoming weeks or months. And literally, I go and talk to them. They go and talk to them. We let them know what's coming, what's going to happen with their business access, where their detours are going to be. We tell them basically everything that they need to prepare for. So we have found that these businesses, once they feel like they've been heard, they, and they know that it's going to be, it's going to be disruption for that period of time, but they also know it's temporary. So we'll tell them the time frame of when we're starting, when we expect to be finished. If we're shutting off their water, we let them know and things. So we're going to just keep working our plan, Julia, because like I said, it works. And we are, I am a triage person, so I reach out to the businesses, give them my information, anything that goes wrong, if a water main breaks, if they lose their internet, if they're, if somebody comes through their property, things, they call me, and then I triage it out to where, that needs to go. Generally, my response time is within, a couple of hours, but certainly everything is normally resolved with their issue within 24 hours, because that's been our standard of, getting back to them right away. So I think they really appreciate being heard, and then the resolution coming. Now, resolution might be that, hey, there is no resolution right now. This might have to move to, 6 months out, but at least they know that. So I think that, yes, COVID helped us as far as alleviating the traffic issues that we might have had on the first part of this Fish Hatchery Road project. But we're already in, Jesse from K&L Engineering and things, and I work very, very closely. We're already working on phase 2 and basically how to, get started with that. So, and there's a great relationship already. So.
Julia?
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. So I know, in this conversation we focus on business, but I'm wondering throughout this project, to what extent residents, particularly poor and working class residents, have been to what extent has there been engagement? Because as much positivity as I'm hearing about this and positive feedback, the construction of Verona Road has adversely impacted many people, especially poor people. It's affected food access in that area. It's led to the closing of Walgreens, which many residents relied on food, and ended up making the Allied neighborhood a food desert for 5 years. The streets are so confusing and so difficult to navigate in and out of. And, you know, I'm sorry that I'm getting kind of emotional about this, but this project has really hurt a lot of people's lives, especially people who don't have access to cars, people who have to rely on public transportation, people who can't easily get to places for food. And, you know, frankly, you know, this project to a large extent has, you know, been a way to allow people to get access from sort of the further suburbs of Madison into the city center, but has really neglected folks who are living at the margins of our society. And I'm wondering to what extent, when these projects are taken, that poor residents, working class residents, residents of color, are even thought of as these projects move. Sorry, I have my daughter with me. Are move forward when these decisions take place. Allied is so isolated from, you know, the rest of Madison, and it's so insulated, and it's often decisions that people have no idea are happening until they're happening to them in the moment.
Well, Joe, I can address a couple of those things. I know for Verona Road, we had update meetings quarterly with Wisconsin DOT. So we opened up the project office, and literally anybody, we invited the entire public to come in there, residents, businesses, everyone. And we gave them updates of the area we were reconstructing. It was an opportunity for them to ask questions, get information that way. And then followed up with that with the weekly communications that would come out. With these projects, we also held.
I'm sorry. I just have to respond to that because I hear this so much all the time in Madison, that, you know, we have our offices open, but frankly, that's not enough. Like, there has to be specific efforts to outreach in a specific way to understand how this is going to affect vulnerable communities, and it doesn't happen. And it didn't happen, and this is one of the reasons why Allied is the way it is. My wife is the owner of Luna's Groceries, and she wouldn't have to have done that if this project was done in a way that takes into consideration how this is going to impact people's lives. Just having a business office open is not going to be sufficient to have people in the community know about that. I mean, like, how is it communicated? How is outreach done? Who's doing that outreach? You're not going to reach people that way by just saying our office is open. Like, in these projects, there really needs to be intentional, systematic efforts to make sure that people aren't displaced and adversely impacted.
Joe, one thing I would just mention is years ago, before the project was even started, there was some engagement with the Allied Area Task Force. There with folks like Sina Davis, Miss Alice Howard, Katie Ferens, and some of the people there. It didn't necessarily result in, I would say, changes to the actual physical project there. It still, I understand, completely created some isolation, obviously caused some business closures like the Walgreens, and they were able to have some positive impact with things like some murals and some of the architectural designs. That doesn't help them from an economic or livelihood standpoint, but there was some engagement early on in the process. But like I said, it didn't necessarily result in addressing issues of like isolation and connectivity from the impacts of the infrastructure.
Thanks, Mike. I'm gonna send this in an email to CETA. I think a lot of you know Thad Schumacher, but Thad's daughter Maddie, when she was a freshman in college, put together this like short sort of college project documentary about this project, and this is historical. Like, this isn't something that's isolated or limited to this neighborhood or to this project. This is something that happens all the time. People get displaced because of systems, and people get moved, and their lives get upended for the sake of systems, for the sake of efficiency, for the sake of commerce, for the sake of economics, and their lives are adversely impacted. And it's happened so often and so much throughout the history of this country that we have to pay attention to these things when we're moving these projects forward. And we can't just think of the interests of the business community and of the economy. We have to think about the lives of people that are impacted, because people's physical lives are upended when these decisions get made.
Okay, and I want to make a final comment so we can move forward with this is, the other thing that I also share with you, I talked to a couple, residents in that community in the north part of Hatchery Road, and some of them, there are a lot of lenders there. There are a lot of apartment and renters and a lot of low-income people, and most of the concern are how this road is going to impact my rent. How this, because you're building a beautiful road, this is what they say, are the landlord are going to come and increase my rent, So I heard that from several people in that area. That one is a big concern. So I think we need to address that. I don't know if you talking to the landlords over there, that they own the big buildings, apartment complex there, and to work with them too. I know that the other concern is we are building a great, in the juice plant, a fair market value apartment complex, and that one is another concern that they have, how that building is going to impact my rent. So I think, that are the human component that we need to also address in this construction. This is what I hear from North Hatchery Road. So I think we need to have that in mind too, because people are concerned about how this road is going to affect them, especially is that going to increase my rent, because now we have a better road, we have better access, So I don't know. So that one is my. Okay, so
Julia,
Julia, okay.
I have no.
Okay, who is next?
Okay.
Andy?
Just the one comment I want to make on this too is, I think with the northern part of Fish Hatchery, there was a lot more transportation alternatives in the area. You have Post Road that goes through, you have Greenway Cross that goes through. There are ways to get around. You have access to the Cannonball Path on that northern part, but when you look at the southern portion of this project, you have the Pines, which is geographically isolated. You have Hatchery Hill, which is geographically isolated. I think we're just going to have to be a lot more cognizant of the fact that on the northern portion, people had alternative routes that they could take. Madison Metro could have a lot of easier alternative routes to get through as well. And that just the way that the Nine Springs E-Way sits, this particular parcel is very geographically isolated, and I think we're going to have to really redouble our efforts on this to make sure that access is maintained for both the businesses and the residents.
I want to echo, Cindy, what everybody said so far, and again, living by Julia, I know what she's talking about and what we went through the last couple of years. But in the same point in time, to go with what Andy just said, what's going to happen is people are going to go down Post Road and they're going to go past Leopold and they're going to go south over to PD. Now that's a residential area. It's already got 5 speed bumps in it. But that's where the traffic's going to go. And we need to be planning around that, because those homeowners are going to go nuts, and they have a right. So I think making sure unlike, even though Joe's comments about the people that were impacted by Verona Road, we got a significant number of people here that are gonna be impacted too in the next year. We got time to plan for it now. And I
Yeah,
would advocate that we deal with it and get those routes going now and talk to people, so my two
Yeah,
cents.
it's a good point, Mark, because that one is Longford Road, and we already have some concern. We had to put more bump speed 2 years ago, and now that one is gonna be a collector road that people are gonna take in order to avoid fish hatchery. And those neighbors in that area, they are already very sensitive, because people are using already that road, and there is, so.
You're also going by a
speeding.
school, Julia. Sorry.
And the school
I didn't mean to
is
interrupt you,
there
but you're going
too.
by a school, and we gotta deal with that too.
Yeah, so and Cindy, if you can put that in your radar too, when to approach those neighbors too, and be sure to put in that Longford Road when they're gonna take it as a detour to, to inform that there is an 25 miles per hour speeding, speed limit, be careful with that. There are a lot of children going to the school, so.
Julia, can I just make a quick comment?
Yes.
This is probably something we should talk to Public Works about, because it's really not something that Cindy's gonna determine the detours or anything like that.
Okay.
She'll be the one who pushes it out once it's
Okay.
determined. And I know that these comments came up at the public meeting.
Okay.
And I'm sure we'll probably have another public meeting prior to the construction, but keep in mind, they're still gonna maintain 2 lanes of traffic, one north and one south.
Yeah,
So
I know.
I think things are, I was pleasantly surprised with how well this project went. So hopefully, and you're concerned about school, it won't start until, I think, April 1st. Is that correct, Cindy?
I believe so. Obviously this changes weekly, but we have been communicating with the Leopold School, so they've been getting the information regularly.
So hopefully the majority of the construction will be done over the summer months. So it shouldn't have a whole lot of, obviously it's going to have some impact, but not as much as what you think. That's
Okay.
my thoughts.
Okay,
And the other thing too is that we also have the neighborhood navigators that the city of Fitchburg, put into place. So I work closely with the neighborhood navigators, and it's my understanding that they're the ones that work more closely with the residents. So we can't forget that they're in place as well too, for helping disseminate information.
Okay, so it's 8:30. So any other question for Cindy before we move to the next presentation?
If not, then I'm going to jump off. So thank
Okay.
you all. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you,
Bye.
Cindy. Thank you very much for your presentation and
you.
update. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
So next we have, can we go through the Fitchburg Chamber before we go to the hotel room? So since Angela is here waiting for us, well, there are two, they are correlated issues. So, so Angela Kinderman is here from the Fitchburg Chamber to give us an update on 21 work plan. It's 8:30, so can you do it in 15 minutes, Angela?
Can do it in 50 seconds, Julia.
Okay, okay.
Well, I'm going to give you just a short, I didn't prepare a PowerPoint. I'm going to give you a short overview of what happened this year and what we're looking at for 2021. And obviously, 2021 is still in flux. As you all know, our hotels have been impacted drastically, which means room tax is also impacted drastically. Revenues are down significantly. At the beginning of the year, when we had to, when everyone went to the stay-at-home order and things changed drastically due to COVID, we adjusted our operations significantly. We went from a 4-person staff to a 3-person staff. We brought all of our contracted work and marketing and for tourism in-house and are continuing to do that in-house. And then, of course, we set up quickly resources and information and pipelines to all of our businesses, but specifically reached out to our hospitality businesses and our hotels. I did share with you, just for some light bedtime reading, the most recent study on tourism that most of the destination organizations are using, both Travel Wisconsin and Destination Madison, on travel sentiment. And at the beginning of the pandemic, we thought that perhaps, by this time we would be back up to maybe 75% of our revenues, but that's clearly not happened, and are still looking at maybe into the third quarter of next year now. It doesn't mean we didn't stop doing our tourism work. So we shifted our focus, like most organizations, to promoting our local businesses and finding outlets to engage in campaigns with both in Fitchburg, and then we've done a lot of joint work with Destination Madison. We did still operate the visitor center, although it was closed at times. We did have a staff person there and respond to incoming calls. Still a significant interest in Fitchburg from people, not necessarily tourist travel type stuff, but people relocating to the area, and that kind of information. So we did still operate the visitor center and still produced a significant amount of kind of material and literature. The guides and the maps are still being requested at almost the same rate they were in 2019. Obviously, our biggest effort right now is our Shop Local campaign. We've had a significant engagement with that. It's called Find It in Fitchburg, which is promoting our businesses, encouraging people, even if they're shopping online, to use a local business to do that. And we've had a great response to that. 2021, we're still going to be pretty significantly focused on the local economy. Even if travel sentiment, or when travel sentiment becomes more positive, the destination marketing organizations will probably be focusing on demographics in drive time radius, which is helpful for the Madison region because we've got some significant areas like Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Louis, Minneapolis that we can focus our efforts on if things open up and we can bring people back into our community. The reason I don't have a formal work plan right now is I'm really looking to wait a few more months, maybe even another quarter, to kind of see where our revenues end up. We certainly are planning for some of the things that we would love to do again, like our concerts, the Agora Art Fair, those type of things. But we have to be flexible. We have to be. We aren't sure at this juncture whether the public health orders will allow us to do that at that time. So we're making plans for it. Those things take a lot of investment and they take advanced planning and time. So we're kind of playing that balance of how much do we invest, whether we can execute or not the project. We have a couple of new things that we're going to focus on and just kind of engaging the community and continuing our brand of Fitchburg, is we are going to launch a community biking challenge. So Bike the Berg challenge, where we encourage people to register and bike 100 or 150 miles through the summer months, and we'll have some organized bike rides centered around that and a finale, hopefully. So a way to continue to extend our brand of Fitchburg, but also engage the community. We're also doing a campaign, again, centered around outdoor experiences and highlighting our agriculture community and the different activities that we can participate in that in the summer. So you'll see a campaign centered around that. I think at this juncture, I think you've all been pretty connected, to Destination Madison. We have had a good relationship with Destination Madison. We continue to partner with them. We met almost monthly or every other month during this crisis, and continue to meet to really work together as a region. And but obviously stories being written about where we're at in the hospitality industry and the auxiliary industries that support the hospitality industry. Those businesses are really struggling. And so we're hopeful that the makeup of our community won't look too drastically different when we come out of this current crisis. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Any question for Angela? Okay. So thank you, Angela, and good luck for 2021.
See you later.
Okay, bye. Thank you. Okay, so next we move to item number 9, the hotel room tax report consideration. Mike or Joyce? I don't know who's gonna.
Joyce is gonna cover the hotel room tax.
Okay.
I'm gonna just report out the items that Misty asked me to touch on. There isn't a whole lot of changes here as far as revenues. As you can see, the third quarter was about a 70% decrease from 2019 in the revenues, and that's on page 1. On page 2, in the blue section, you'll see that there's going to be approximately a $20,000 deficit. On page 2, in the red section, the design for the hub has been completed and paid. If you recall, CETA provided some funding for the hub design. On page 3, in the purple section, you will note that it has the $47,500 loans for the business boost, with the repayment starting in January of 2021. And here's a note that I think is noteworthy of me sharing. It says, overall, CETA continues to be financially strong. The healthy undesignated fund balance, combined with the pullback of several of the expenses, thanks to Mike for doing that analysis, that's my own words, will allow CETA to weather the COVID storm. So those are the notes from Misty.
Okay, any question for Joyce? Nope. Okay, thank you, Joyce. Mike, number 11, Economic Development Director and Committee Member Report. So Mike, can you start with your report?
Sure. Julia, do you want to go first on just giving the update on Mad Rep with the announcement yesterday? And then I can go into my stuff.
Okay, yeah, so as you know, I am a board member from the Mad Rep organization, and Paul Jaden is our current CEO, and he decided a couple of months ago that he was planning to leave the organization. So Mad Rep started like a search for a new CEO, and after a couple of 2 or 3 months, the board voted last week to select Jason Fields as the new CEO. He's going to start working on January 4th. And Jason is coming from Milwaukee area. He's very well known in politics because he's still finishing his state rep, representing part of Milwaukee section in the Capitol. And also he is, entrepreneur. He has a financial background. And he has created a couple of Black enterprise programs in Milwaukee. So he has a great resume for the organization. And I think that it's going to be a good addition for the organization, for the region. He knows how to, one of the conditions or the requirement for the position was to have a good connection with the state and local, government, because Mad Rep is working closely with some of the, the state, with WDC, with county and some municipality, and especially with the 8 county that we represent. So I think he has that background. He's a good fundraiser too. My rep is on a not-for-profit, so we need to fundraise our, collect the funds to, for the operation of the organization. So, so that one is, the press release went out yesterday. I think I'm gonna bring Jason in the future to one of our meetings so he can understand the Fitchburg City being one of the catalysts, the growth in the region, especially in Dane County. So he will be great to be in CEDA for a presentation. And I also want to thank Paul Jaden has been, he's leaving the organization on February 3rd. And he has been a very good, advisor for the city of Fitchburg, especially in TIF. He was a Fitchburg resident in my district. I know Paul for many years. He's no longer in Fitchburg. He moved to Green Bay. And then, something that we need to have a connection with Jason Field and the city of Fitchburg, because, Paul was a good advisor for us too. So, so that one is the something that Mike and we talked yesterday about bringing him to the city. And maybe in the future, when COVID is gone, we can give a tour of the city. So he can see all the economic development that we have in our own city. So that one is my update.
Okay. Thanks, Julia. Just to give you some development updates in case people haven't been around the city on Fish Hatchery Road. If you haven't been there recently, the steel is going up for the Park Bank branch at Greenway Cross and Fish Hatchery Road. The Terrace Point Apartments, that's the name of the redevelopment of the juice plant. The brick and the siding is going up on that building. It looks very nice in that corridor. Hatchery Hill, the building that includes the Great Dane, the building that has Panera, and then the building where the 3-story building where the postal contract station is. Those properties have been sold from Taxman Investments to Bridge 33 Capital. That just occurred on December 7th. So we're in communication with the new ownership group there. They're keeping the current management going. One update on the postal contract station and Sue's Hallmark there. Sue's no longer has an affiliation with Hallmark. John, the owner of that, is planning to keep it open as Sue's Gift Shop, and his intent is to continue to operate the postal contract station. So I've been in communication with him, the ownership, and then also folks at the U.S. Postal Service there about how that continues going forward. So at least through March 11th, the postal contract station operations remain as is, and then we'll be working with John with his gift shop and the future of that postal contract station, but continue to patronize and utilize the contract station at Hatchery Hill. With the acquisition of Stop and Go portfolio by Quick Trip, our Stop and Go on Fish Hatchery Road at Bowman Plaza has closed. I've got some communication out to Andy Bowman to coordinate working with him. My understanding is he's going to maintain ownership of that real estate, and we will work with him on future plans for that property. I'm checking in with the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation about a possible planning grant that would help us with multiple properties up there to put together some conceptual plans to continue to keep the redevelopment momentum going forward up in that corridor. On the west side of the city, if you've been behind Super Target or seen that recently, the Quarry Ridge, this is the resort-style senior living. Steel and concrete is going up for that development. And then Jacob Klein, who has his Limestone Ridge workforce affordable housing proposal for behind Hy-Vee, has received all his approvals now from the Plan Commission. So we're anticipating that he may start yet this year or early next year, weather permitting on that project. The Myers proposal on the north side of McKee Road across from Super Target, our Public Works Department is finalizing a subdivision improvement agreement with them. Hopefully that goes to the Board of Public Works on Monday, December 21st. And that's also a key date where hopefully Myers will exercise their option to purchase the property. So we're coordinating a lot of work and communication with them on that. along Seminole Highway. If you've been down there recently, south of the Black Hawk Church and across from the Hop House Brew Pub and restaurant there, that neighborhood is starting to take shape. It's called Crescent Crossing. This would be at the northeast corner of Saline Road and Lacey Road. That's a Viridian development. They've pulled 6 single-family permits already for that neighborhood, and then 4 side-by-side townhouse duplex units, so you can see those taking shape in that neighborhood. We're also working with multiple senior housing developers that work in the space of the continuum of living and care. There's 2 in particular that are zeroing in on some sites here in Fitchburg, so hopefully that will bring us some new senior housing that would have a mix of independent, assisted living, and memory care. We could use some new inventory of that product just based on population and demographics out here. Over on the west side, 2 north of Saris, if you've been in that corridor lately, the vertical storage facility, Discovery Storage, is going up at that location. That's starting to come out of the ground. And then the quick trip proposal for the corner of East Sherrill Parkway and South Saline Road, this would be at the southeast corner of that intersection, is going to be on the Plan Commission agenda for December. The iHeartRadio property here, just to the west of City Hall at Fish Hatchery and Lacey Road, is on the market and for sale. So we've been fielding inquiries not only from the listing broker, but potential developers for that property. It's getting significant interest, but nobody has an option or control of that property yet, but conversations continue going forward with that. And then in the 2021 budget, the council did include, and it was approved, the $10,000 for the housing endowment feasibility study. And so we've been in communication with Mike Harrigan and Steve Affelbach from H&A Advisors. They're going to start to put together a draft scope of services and a contract. We can't do anything until after January 1st, but Joyce is already in communication with them to start to get those documents drafted. And then once that would get referred out by the council, we would refer it to CETA, the Housing Advisory Committee, as well as Finance. So stay tuned for that going forward in 2021. And then with COVID, we're still getting, with this latest Dane County Public Health Order, number 10, we've had some inquiries or I guess frustrations with some businesses, Kell School of Dance, Goldfish Swim Academy, and Delta Beer Lab, that are frustrated that it seems like maybe there's some inconsistencies across business sectors of how they're able to operate. And so we've been fielding some of that communication and trying to share it with folks at Dane County, not only Dane County Public Health, but the county exec's office. And then I know Angela has been working with the consortium of chambers of commerce, including the Greater Madison Chamber, who's trying to coordinate some of that communication as well. There just seems to be some different operating procedures depending on how businesses are classified, and some that aren't able to operate are very frustrated because they see very similar type businesses still being able to operate at a reduced capacity following all the health and safety protocols, and they're just asking the question of why can't they operate under those same kind of occupancy restrictions if they follow the health and safety protocols. So we're trying to offer assistance where we can, but we don't have a local public health department here, so we really have to adhere to and we operate under the orders from the Dane County Public Health, but I'll keep you posted on that if there's anything. Then lastly, we've got some good news on our bond rating. Our AA1 rating was reaffirmed by Moody's, which resulted in a lot of significant interest savings going forward with our latest bond sale. And kudos to Joyce, who did a lot of work on that presentation. A lot of great compliments from Moody's as far as the detailed level and thoroughness of the bond rating presentation that Misty and Joyce worked on. So great job, Joyce and Misty, for all your efforts related to that. I think that covers anything. Any questions on projects?
I have a question. Joyce sent out an email from Joe Pulvermacher. Have you seen that, Mike?
Oh, yeah, in regards to the True Coffee fire?
Yeah.
and he made some suggestions, of, having tools available to keep business model operational after a fire. Are we gonna talk about that at some meeting in the future?
Yeah, we can put that on an agenda in the future. I think Joyce replied to his email indicating that we probably do that somewhat informally at this point in time, but I think it might be helpful to have more of a formal discussion of that and talk about, are there some additional things that we can do to be proactive to have in place?
Okay, that's the only point I had.
Who else has a question? Mark, do you have a question?
No, it was me, Julia. I just wanted to follow up. There is a Housing Advisory Committee meeting on Monday, December 14th at 5 o'clock. It's a Zoom meeting. We are going to be discussing two items. One being the accessory dwelling units. And then also just a kind of an update on some thoughts on alder engagement in the development process. Sonia will be kind of taking the lead on those two things. And then we are going to have Lori Heineman from the Madison Development Corporation give a little overview on the new Dane County Workforce Housing Fund. So if anybody is interested in hopping on that meeting, let me know and I can get you the link.
Any other question? Okay, so I thank you, Mike, for the update. You know, I was thinking that how we can make, because now with COVID, what I want to say, we passed the mark, but maybe consider for next year, you know, how we can make our city more festive for during the holidays. You know, and I know that we have the winter festival, that we don't have it this year, but how we can make our, you know, like a McKee Farm Park, a more festive, you know, like with more lights, so people can walk and, you know, bring the family. So maybe it could be a cedar initiative for next year. I don't know how to engage more the community, you know, during this time of the year. I don't know. I think it's something that maybe we can think from next year too.
I think we're all suffering withdrawal this year. You know,
I
some
know.
of the traditional things like Get Festive with Agora and those things aren't happening.
Yeah, so it's gonna be very kind of depressing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So not having all this activity in the city. I forgot what I was planning to say about business development, but okay.
You wanted to tell everybody happy holidays, and we have 3 minutes here before 9. So
yeah, I know.
Remember, you weren't going to talk long.
Yeah, I am surprised.
Yeah, you weren't going to talk long, Julia. I have it in writing, and I kept that, so.
And one other development that I will mention, and maybe if we could maybe adjourn, and then I could run it, and you could watch it if you want, or if you need to leave, that's fine. But it's a flyover and drone footage from Terra Vesta. Hopefully I can cue it up here and show you. It's like a 3 or 4 minute, but boy, I tell you, what an impressive development over there as far as all of the housing starts, the duplex units, the Forest Edge Elementary School, and the Mariposa Daycare there. So as we're signing off, if you want to have a motion to adjourn, I can hopefully cue it up and you can watch that if you've got time.
Did anyone see the new home that was built on Cheryl that's for sale now? The one that was on the explosion site?
Oh,
I walked by it yesterday, Jennifer.
Did anyone see the listing price?
No, how much?
Oh.
$485.
Wow. Wow.
So it's a beautiful home, but just on new development, wanted to share that that house is up and going.
How many square feet?
It's over 4,000 finished basement. It's 4 beds, 2.5 baths, but being on the corner lot, I'm curious to see where that's gonna go. Because I sold a home right on Sherrill as well, just 2 blocks down, and we were nowhere near that, even with new construction down the road. So I'm curious to see where that's going to end up. And it's getting sold for sale by owner. So their information. So it's a 4-bed, 3.5 bath. Sorry, not even. It's 2990 square foot on the corner lot. Yeah.
Jennifer, what'd the one next to it go for? The one that exploded and they rebuilt?
That's the one I'm talking about.
No,
Isn't
no,
it?
the one that on the corner was damaged. It wasn't
I
exploded.
don't think that we need to be talking about this on screen.
All right, I
I'm just
move
saying
to
it was
adjourn.
listed.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm
All
gonna
of
cue,
these, all of them in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 I
Nays. The motion adjourned at 9 o'clock.